Hi everyone, Greg Heilman with the Sound on Stage here with Karen Lund, producing artistic director of Taproot Theatre. And we are actually at Taproot Theatre this afternoon to talk about their opening show in their 2024 season, The Book of Will. Now Karen, this is the second show that you're doing in a row from playwright Lauren Gunderson, who also wrote the trilogy, the Christmas at Pemberley trilogy. And
Correct.
you guys just did Georgiana and Kitty.
That's right.
And now you're doing The Book of Will, also written by Lauren. What is it about Lauren, before we talk about the show, because we will get to the show, what is it about Lauren as a playwright that you seem to have an affinity for?
Oh my gosh, I love Lauren Gunderson's work. The first show I did of hers was a show called Silent Sky, but we didn't even do that one until I had tried so desperately to do I Am You, which is a two-hander that she wrote, and we couldn't get the rights to it. But we did get the rights to Silent Sky, and I love her writing. She has an amazing sense of humor. So one, she's a fantastic writer. She's female. She loves science. And she has, like I said, a crazy, wonderful sense of humor. We used to have a lot of more people who wrote comedies. And comedies are not really what's being produced right now. And so when you find somebody who can tell you an intriguing story, an interesting story, and make you laugh all the way along, that's really exciting. And the thing is about her Pemberley work is that if you love Jane Austen's novels the way I love Jane Austen's novels, she is so true to those characters and to the original Pride and Prejudice novel that she builds her characters off of, that it really feels like a beautiful piece of fan fiction, where you're expanding the story. And you're like, oh, I always wondered what would have happened with that character and where they were. And like, for instance, last year we did the Wickhams. And Lydia was the sister who got into all kinds of trouble with Wickham. And you get to find out how that all turns out, what happens next for them. And it's really fun and exciting, especially if you're somebody who grew up reading those novels and they mean a lot to you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that she uses science and is a fan of science herself. Now, the only other playwright I know that uses science to a certain extent is Agatha Christie, who has a lot of scientific accuracy in her work.
Yeah.
How does Lauren roll science into the work that she does?
So many of her other titles, not the Pemberley titles, but many of her other titles talk about, she has a title about Madame Curie. She talks about other mathematicians and philosophers, and so she does very in-depth research. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that her partner is a scientist of some sort. So I don't want to get that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what the situation is. And so she loves science, she loves the arts, and she combines them. And a lot of her female characters, even in the Pemberley trilogy, go on to, to break down walls for women in different ways. And one of the characters, Mary, who is kind of like a little bit of a dormouse in the original Pride and Prejudice, goes on to live a life where she's studying science with her husband, in the future. So she's doing that for women. She's really making sure that women go on to have exciting scientific and experimental lives.
And the next show in the series, or the first of the season, is The Book of Will, which is also a comedy. And of course, Will, as anyone might guess, is William Shakespeare. But it's a different take on it. Before we get to the plot, what is it about that show that made you, especially as the artistic director here, want to include it in the season?
Well, the show it's beautiful. I'll tell you a little bit about the plot, because then I can tell you why I love it. And that is, it's a story of all of these friends of William Shakespeare, all of these actors who he had been working with through his whole career, coming together 3 years after his death and saying, we're going to lose these beautiful manuscripts if we don't do something about getting them published. And so the Kingsmen, which was the name of the acting troupe, they all gather together and they go and they scour and they get the sides from all of the shows, and they end up producing the first folio. But during the course of that play, the discussions, because it's a very hard project that they're doing, and the discussions are, why story? Why do we tell stories? Why theater? Why is theater more important? Why, instead of like I could sit at home and read a book? And that's so much about what we're talking about now, coming out of the lockdown.
Yeah, I was going to say, that seems to be really topical.
Yeah, we're talking about why is it important to come into the theater and be in community and listen to this shared story together and respond to it together, and how does it change us as a human being that we just did that? And Lauren is having a real discussion amongst these actors about it. And we talk a little bit about how it's really easy as an actor to go, am I making a difference? Am I really doing anything? I'm coming up here and I'm playing pretend. Does it really mean anything? And yet when we think about being depressed or being sad, what do we think about in terms of how we're going to get ourselves cheered up? We think about music, we think about books, we think about plays and movies and people. So story does something to ground our lives. And when we come into a group and we're surrounded by other audience members and we laugh as one, or we sigh as one, or we applaud as one, it tells me I'm a part of this community. I agree with my community. I am a part of something.
And that's something you don't get in your living room.
No, not by yourself.
Yeah, I remember the first time coming out of COVID and going to a movie. There was probably 4 of us in the theater, and we all laughed at the same time at something, and I thought, this is something the last 2 or 3 years that we've really missed.
Yeah.
And to your point, story is something that on one hand takes you away, but it also is something that is relatable.
Right.
So it's those kind of almost dueling polarities in a way. So it's an escapism, but it's also something that helps you relate and to your own life and become hopefully a better person.
Right. So you can go into a dangerous situation, but it's survivable. Mm-hmm. You can go into a heartbreaking situation, but it's survivable, right? And you can watch these characters, go over these difficult terrains, and they come out of it, and you can come out of it too. But you've learned something, you've gained something, your heart has grown, your mind has expanded, and you're safe, right? Yeah. Because it was being done there. But what we have that's unique in our theater is we have that deep thrust stage. And so what our audience has told us coming out of COVID is what they love about sitting in our theater is that you can't just watch a play at Taproot. You have to watch the play and the person just beyond the actor and how they're responding. So you're in community. And so you know how when you go to a movie theater and you're sitting in the dark and everybody else could disappear and you could just engage with the story? Mm-hmm. Not so here, right? Because you are seeing the play in front of you, but you're also hearing and seeing all the people around you experiencing it.
That's a good point. I've never thought about that. In shows I've seen here, I've done that. I've sat on one side of the stage and looked beyond the stage and have seen how people react. And it is definitely something that's unique to this theater. Yeah.
So, I mean, back in the day, after 9/11 happened, I don't remember this, but like a lot of the theaters shut down. Our theater had a show running and it stayed open, and the audiences were there. It was packed. And we do, every Wednesday night, we do talkbacks with the audience, and we're like, why are you here when so many people are staying home? And, they shut down Broadway and all that. And they said because of the community. Our audience told us they needed to be someplace where there was community.
Especially then. Yeah. So the show opens on January 24th. Mm-hmm. How long ago did you cast it? And what's kind of the rehearsal process been building up?
So I think I cast it sometime like in August or September. It was quite a while ago. But we didn't start rehearsing until 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so we've been working every day on the show, and I have an amazing cast. It's going to be such a great show, such fabulous actors. And what's beautiful about this cast is a lot of it is actors playing actors. So that's a fun thing to see. So how do you as a modern day actor play a Shakespearean actor?
Yeah, you're not just being the Shakespearean character, you're being an actor playing someone from that era. Yeah, that definitely adds a layer of a challenge for the actors. So it runs for a month, January 24th through February 24th on the Jewel main stage. Do you have a separate, and we'll get into this, we're going to plan on a get to know a theater with Karen and Taproot, but do you have a separate rehearsal space, or do you typically wait for your previous show to leave and then you just move into that?
Right, so we have the Isaac Studio Theater, which is our second space. So our first space is the Jewel, but if you would have been here at Christmas time in December, we had Georgiana and Kitty happening on the Jewel main stage, and we had a Charlie Brown Christmas happening in the Isaac. So the Isaac works as our rehearsal space for all of our shows, and then we move in there so that we can be rehearsing one show while another show is performing.
Nice. Okay, so January 24th through February 24th at the Jewel main stage, the Book of Will. How can people get tickets and learn more about the show?
Well, that's a really great question. I think that there are a couple of ways. One is you can go to our website, taproottheatre.org, or you could call our box office, and that's 206-781-9706. Or, how else could you do it?
So keep an eye out on on the Facebook page of the website for my review. We'll also have links to the theater and information on how to get tickets there as well. So however you get tickets, this looks like it's going to be a fun show.
It's going to be a hilarious comedy, but you're also going to learn something about Shakespeare and his pals that you had no idea about before. So I love that when that happens in theater, where I'm delightfully entertained, but then I come out knowing more than I knew before.
Excellent. So Karen, thank you so much.
Sure.
And look out for the Book of Will and come down to Taproot Theatre here in Seattle and come and see it. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.